support Zambians in creating and seizing opportunities for a better life. I'm proud that the effects of our partnership for nearly 6 decades have personally impacted virtually every Zambian alive today. But don't just take it from me. Let's hear how Zambians themselves have benefited from our partnership.
Because of the funding that is given through USAID, we're able to give immunizations, we're able to offer quality antenatal care, we're able to offer HIV care and treatment, as well as malaria prevention. Roughly 1/4 of every 3/4 that is spent on the Zambian public health system has actually been contributed by the American people. And as a result, we're able to see a reduction in mortality and in maternal mortality as well as child mortality by 30 and 20% respectively over the last 10 years.
I know how to read and write. Thank you to the American people.
As a Zambian teacher, I thank the American people for the support they're giving us through the teaching and learning materials. They have made my work to be so easy.
Did you know that 1 in every 2 primary students in Zambia now has textbooks and access to libraries because of the support of the American people?
The American people invest over 7 billion kwacha each year to end HIV and AIDS in Zambia. That includes free medication to 1.2 million Zambians who are HIV positive and education on HIV prevention through initiatives like the DREAMS program.
The DREAMS program has taught me how to keep myself safe and healthy and provided me skills such as tailoring to earn a living.
I am pursuing my dream studying chemical engineering in America. Thanks to the U.S. Embassy's assistance in educational advising, over 400 Zambians study in the United States every year. Studying in the United States has empowered us to create our own future and contribute solutions to global challenges.
The Mandela Washington Fellowship is a cultural education and knowledge exchange between the Zambian people and the American people. I have benefited a lot through networking and learning, acquiring a lot of skills and knowledge, which I will take to Zambia and help many communities in my home country.
We want to thank the American people for their support. Because of their help, we have increased the production capacity of the farm in horticulture and egg production. We have employed a lot of women and therefore we have empowered them.
Did you know that this year, America invested over 500 million kwacha to support food security in Zambia?
As a young girl, I dreamt of ways of empowering my community in Mansa. I now run a business that produces hand sanitizer from cassava. Business skills training and support from the American people enable a growing class of entrepreneurs like myself realize our dreams, Zambia's dreams.
After studying in the United States, I returned home to lead major American companies, investments, and commercial interests. My current company, Cobalt Metals, invested $150 million in its first year, creating jobs in close partnership with the local community. American companies prioritize environmental, social, and governance best practices while honoring the rule of law and protecting the environment.
I am part of the Zambia-U.S. During our deployment, we managed to score a lot of success stories. And I can attribute these success stories due to the pre-deployment training that we undertook at Kenneth Kaunda Peace Training Center. This pre-deployment training is supported by the United States government support program through the U.S. Army.
I would say from public procurement processes to tax policy to the discussion on how to use CDF, American support helped us improve government functions to benefit and meet the needs of the people.
As a civic leader, I'm very happy that with the support from the United States, we are now able to interact with the heads of departments in the districts. Unlike in the past, we were just on the receiving ends. For example, under CDF, we also now sit together to prioritize projects for funding.
For 2 decades now, American Peace Corps have come into Zambia and lived with our people in the communities.
They have lived in Zambian houses in the communities. They have shared knowledge and culture with our people. They have taught our children how to read. They have taught our people in the communities on how to protect the environment. They have become our brothers and sisters.
America and Zambia, stronger together.
Thank you so much. That was the video from State Department. We now move to our next program, the first panel discussion, building strategic partnership between the state of Minnesota and the Zambian government Ministry of Agriculture for economic growth, leveraging opportunities and innovation in agriculture. The panelists are Ambassador Chivamba Kanyama, Commissioner Tom Peterson, who will be represented by Assistant Commissioner Patrick Belly. We also have Acting Director, Zambian Agriculture Research Institute, Dr. Ndasheka Paulu. Please join me. I'm going to start with Tom Peterson, which is Assistant Commissioner. Yes. You can do it. Good afternoon again. We are already in the afternoon. It has been a great morning. I'll start with you, Assistant Commissioner Patrice. Yesterday, the delegation from Zambia, led by Ambassador Chivamba Kanyama, paid a courtesy to the office. And we had so much conversation that was going on, and a lot was discussed. My question to you, the first question, or maybe before I ask a question, you may want to have a second or say something.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. So my first question to you will be, what are the specific goals and areas of collaboration between the Minnesota Department of Agriculture and the Zambian Ministry of Agriculture? And how can these partnerships benefit farmers, consumers, and economic growth in both regions?
Well, thank you so much. My name is Patrice Bailey, and I serve as Assistant Commissioner for the Department of Agriculture here in Minnesota. There's lots of opportunities that, in listening to the conversation yesterday, that was really impactful in terms of ways that we can work together. Well, starting off with a visit, so I would definitely want to be a part of that trade mission as well. But more importantly, I think one of the things that's really important in regards to just looking at your question.
How can these partnerships benefit farmers, consumers, and economic growth in both regions?
Well, you know, it's really important to be able to have a collaboration between not only Minnesota but also with Zambia. I think it's an opportunity to be able to have best practices of how the two regions can be able to work together in regards to solving problems. In addition, we have to feed an extra billion folks around the world, and that's going to take innovation. That's going to take ways to be able to bring young people into agriculture so that we could be able to produce enough food and be able to focus on things that are happening in a digital world. That's another challenge that we have, but it's not so much a barrier that it will continue to prevent us from doing that. I see lots of possibilities between the two countries, and definitely looking forward to working on a plan to be able to come out and see what Minnesota can offer and how we can bring leaders to come out and be able to not only learn from the Zambian people, but also just be able to offer the different ways that we've been able to deal with some hardships in regards to drought in the last 3 to 4 years, and how we were able to sustain farmers.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That's a good one. My next question, before I come to the next question, probably I'll get to you, Ambassador, Your Excellency.
Thank you.
Your Excellency, good afternoon once again. You can also greet the viewers out there who are listening to you.
Hello, good evening in Zambia and good afternoon.
Thank you. My first question to you would be, I know yesterday again, I'll say to you, you had such a great visit at EPSCO to Minnesota Department of Agriculture. You had great conversations going on. I see great opportunities coming through. My question to you will be, could you outline specific areas of agriculture expertise or resources that the state of Minnesota can offer to support Zambians' agriculture development goals, particularly in terms of innovation and technology adoption?
Yeah, like I said earlier in the morning, our farmers are still using old methods of agriculture. Very few applying technologies, even simple irrigation, just simple irrigation. We still have to learn it. Many of us. Earlier, the officials from Ministry of Agriculture talked about the initiatives and pronouncements by the president to encourage irrigation. But what I heard again from the same Ministry of Agriculture officials, that it's not winter, for example, winter planting, which should be done now in Zambia. May, it's very cold. June gets really kind of cold, but not as cold as here. So farmers have to know, where do I plant this? So there is all these things happening, and to provide guidance to the farmer requires great leadership at government level. So what I've observed here is that there's very good information flow. During the drought period, we saw how engaged the Department of Agriculture was in providing information via its website to the farmers. I valued that a lot, because farmers must access that information, not only just weather updates. So for me, the technology and information flow and support has to be from A to Z, meaning that guiding the farmers where to plant, how to plant, what kind of soils, and up to marketing, where do you sell? And I think the biggest part, which I'll talk about later, is the partnership between the private sector and government, public sector. Yeah. I'll talk about it a little bit more, because when I saw the number of companies that are involved, whether it's in research, whether it's in processing and marketing, that is what we want to see more and more in Zambia. And that is what can make the difference, because it's not enough. We had the cabbage farmer who grew cabbage and all much of it couldn't sell. There's no point to grow anything and you cannot sell it. So that's why I'm saying we have to learn how to engage the farmer from point A to Z, the entire cycle of agriculture.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. My next question will go to Dr. Ndashe. Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon to you.
My first question to you, again, I would say your visit yesterday to the Minnesota Department of Agriculture was really amazing. And through those discussions, a lot came out. My question to you is, what notable research initiatives or projects demonstrate collaboration potential between Minnesota and Zambia in agriculture?
Thank you very much, and good evening to all who are joining us, on the online platform. Very good question, and I must say, quite very intriguing on our part to interact with the Department of Agriculture in the state of Minnesota. A lot of learning points and a lot of, points of convergence in the sense that I do note that Minnesota, to start with, has key value chains, that they're kind of leading in. So, for example, Minnesota is leading in soybean production, in corn production, pork, beef, and dairy. Now, as a coincidence, those are the key value chains that the government of the Republic of Zambia, under the leadership of our president, has prioritized. So Zambia has prioritized beef, corn, soya, wheat, dairy, and aquaculture. So in our discussions yesterday, I do note that there are areas of mutual interest between our government and the Minnesota, Department of Agriculture. So specifically, I think, to zero in on your question, and through our interactions, I think, and listening to the presentations early this morning, I do note that the key areas where Zambia could actually benefit from this mutual collaboration is, number one, in the area of developing varieties, that are suitably adapted to the climatic changes. I think earlier on today, we saw how the University of Minnesota, is doing a lot of work in that regard. The second area, of course, in the case of Zambia, and as we have seen the impact of the drought that we are just currently experiencing, is in the area of perhaps maybe vaccine development for, to support our livestock sector. I think that's one other notable area where we could easily collaborate. But allow me also to digress a bit and talk about some of the already existing areas of collaboration between the government of the Republic of Zambia and the United States government. For example, the government of the United States of Zambia, the United States of America, is supporting our country, through an initiative that is aimed at mapping out our soils under the United States Department for Agriculture. So that project, is going to help Zambia be able to refine its fertilizer recommendations as a country, be able to optimize, the amount of fertilizers that are applied to our crops and contribute overall to the production narrative within our country. So simply put, I think there's quite a lot, we could learn from the United States, but there's also, quite a lot we have to offer as a country in terms of, the conducive environment for foreign, companies that are based here in the United States can come, and invest back in Zambia. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Probably while you are still there, I'll ask another question because you are already on research. You may have already touched, but I'll still ask again. The second question to you will be, how can agriculture research and innovation contribute to sustainable development goals in both regions?
Yeah, very good question, and quite a mouthful in terms of my response. So from the several sustainable development goals, I think that we have, I would like to start by highlighting sustainable development goal number 2, food security, ending hunger. So research is very important in terms of contributing towards food security, in the sense that through research we can develop, for example, high-yielding crop varieties. And when we increase our productivity, we can then, of course, contribute towards making food a bit more available. Secondly, we heard yesterday that Minnesota actually also experienced, a drought in the past 3 years, and they've been able to, develop resilient technologies that have helped to build resilience in their food system. And likewise, research is one such tool, that can be used through development, for example, of either climate smart technologies within the context of Zambia, considering that our immediate challenge is that of water stress. Some key innovative approaches, that can be deployed could include drought-tolerant varieties. And earlier on today, we heard from Professor Phil in terms of what, Minnesota University is doing in terms of developing drought-tolerant varieties. The other intervention could be in the area of conservation agriculture itself, water harvesting techniques, land management techniques that help, to reduce the carbon footprint, but at the same time help to increase, food production. The other aspect I would point to where research could, contribute to achieving, sustainable development goals is in the area of ending poverty. By developing technologies that put incomes into farmers, homes. So the majority of farmers who grow food in the context of Zambia, are smallholder. By coming up with innovative approaches, generating technologies that contribute to yield increase, you pass on the dividends to farmers, by them earning higher incomes, and consequently you contribute towards, alleviating poverty within that context. The other thing, of course, we've heard our government, has placed so much emphasis on, centering, agriculture around anchor value chains. So value chain development, which we have seen actually, as a case in point from our visit here, is one such, intervention that is being used even here in the United States, where key value chains, are being promoted. So right from, pre-production stage all the way up to consumption through value addition and, the processing, you then, increase the value of the agricultural produce, and consequently, you contribute towards incomes, you contribute towards development in a broader sense. Another development goal that I could highlight, which is very important, and I believe earlier on, I think there was a question in our discussions in terms of what are we doing to address some of the dietary needs or the nutritional needs insofar as agricultural production is concerned. So SDG number 3 focuses on health and nutrition. We are what we eat. And research has over the years, evolved to the point where we are now able to use technology to introgress particular, traits of interest in crop varieties or even in animal, we breed for desired traits. So for example, in the case of Zambia, we've collaborated, with CGIAR systems from the United States of America to develop nutrient-dense crop varieties. So we have about 5, vitamin A-rich orange maize varieties that have been developed. We have high iron, high zinc bean varieties that have been developed. We have orange-fleshed sweet potatoes with high beta-carotene content that has been developed. All those are research efforts, that are aimed at, addressing some of the, needs as contained, in the Sustainable Development Goals. Climate change. Sustainable Development Goal number 13, the call to climate action. Green technologies, green approaches, precision agriculture. We heard earlier on, on some of the technologies that have been developed here on that focus on the right placement, right use of agricultural inputs, to avoid either greenhouse gas emissions or, to conserve, water within the context of, trying to build resilience to our production system. So all in all, and simply put, I think going forward, research is one such a tool, that can be used to build resilience in our food systems to the ever-changing, climate environment that is poised to, affect severely our food system. So we can ensure or we can de-risk our production systems, by investing in technology development via research. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kapalu. My next question will go to Patrice. My question to you is, how does the Minnesota State Department Agriculture function as a state, at a state level government agency, and what collaborative efforts does it engage in with federal programs?
Thank you so much for the question. The way that we function here is, we work very closely with the legislature, especially when it comes to funding. This year is a policy year, and next year will be a budget year. So there's state money, and then there's also federal money that we apply for. And we have programs such as Farm to School program, and we also have worked with the NRCS, which is the Natural Resource Conservation Service, with the USDA to be able to work, to do work around conservation when it comes to our federal partners. Of course, we do a lot of inspection here in Minnesota in terms of keeping the supplies chain safe and the food. So we're working with anyone from APHIS to the Board of Animal Health and other inspectors that we have to be able to partner around the federal partners and financial opportunities to be able to continue to keep inspecting food and making sure that our supply continues to work. But we couldn't do it without our stakeholders, such as Farmers Union and other ag groups. So we stay in close contact with them. And a lot of times it's working with the University of Minnesota, especially in the extension side, to learn about different programs that they're doing on the federal level that we can be a part of. And you spoke about research. Research is huge in Minnesota, especially when you have 25 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered here in Minnesota. We work, quite collaboratively with them to make sure that we're sharing in resources as well on the federal level, so that we're actually looking at ways in which we could continue to enhance best practices and innovation around the food supply. And also, you had talked about food security. So those are just some of the ways that that we function on the state level, but it's not without collaboration from our legislature and also the governor, and making sure that we're looking at every opportunity, not just for the state, but also on the federal side, of ways in which we could continue to make sure that our farmers are whole, especially during a drought.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful, and it's good to learn. My next question will come to you, Your Excellency. I know this other question, probably Dr. Kapalo had touched on it. I'll ask the other one. What role does technology play in transforming Zambian agriculture, and how can Minnesota expertise contribute?
Technology is the way things are happening today.
Sure.
Driving efficiencies is catalyst for change, transformation. Technology is affecting processes, procedures, and how people deliver. Technology is even supporting how farmers begin to engage among themselves. Let's talk about that social media platform, the simple ones. And I heard yesterday how farmers were able to, livestock farmers here, able to share information among themselves where feed could be available. That's power of technology. What we are witnessing in Zambia is quick penetration of innovation and technology among the rural communities, such that technology is facilitating not only the simple tools that farmers are using, technology is also helping how farmers get paid, how they transact for what they produce, which never used to happen before. So you have farmers even enjoying off-taker. These are SME farmers using technological platforms, having access to information, I would say symmetrical information about what's available and at what price. As I'm speaking to you now, we have an American company that's just invested in Zambia. We've been talking for the past 2 years, which is helping, it's more like an Amazon kind of, but focused on agriculture to support SMEs. So in short, I would say that technology is wide-ranging. It's affecting how people are producing, how people understand the price mechanism, how people know who wants to buy what they have. And very few farmers now, because of the information systems and new platforms by which people can access information, very few farmers now produce and grow chicken without a buyer. They are simply using technological platforms, and there's already somebody who wants to buy whatever you're producing. That's how it has just reactivated the whole issue within the context of agriculture. How we want to collaborate with, say, the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, I may not be able to say in what areas right now. I want to state again that we are still exploring. This is just our first step of engagement, trying to hear and listen to one another and to each other. I made an invitation yesterday for the Minnesota Department of Agriculture with the Farmers Union to visit Zambia. Not to make any commitments, just to go and see what is there. And then we should be able to identify the gaps. What can we learn from you and what can you learn from us? So to me, that is the first step to partnerships, to collaboration, and I do anticipate that much of that collaboration may have to do with research, have to do with technology, the role of the private sector, and what it can do to make, facilitate for change. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll also get to you again to ask this other question while you are still there. In what ways does Zambia aims to foster sustained engagement and collaboration? I know you have already talked about it. Stakeholders beyond initial partnership engagements, ensuring long-term mutual benefits and shared prosperity.
My response will be shorter than the question. You cannot harvest overnight. Right. You can never harvest results overnight. Nothing comes abracadabra. An initial knock does not lead to final signatures. It's a process of trust, first of all, and I believe in it. Develop a culture of trust. So this collaboration, we are beginning to trust each other. Keep talking. We want to know who is who, and they must know us. It will not happen. I can assure you it won't happen this week. It won't happen next month. It may not even happen this year. But we keep on talking. It's a strategic approach. Strategically engage and know what are the low-hanging fruits. Where can we win first? There are areas we can win immediately this year. There are other areas we can win next year in terms of collaboration and partnerships. But other areas will happen 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. But the bottom line is we shall continue to engage one another until we see the results.
Thank you so much. That was a great answer. Indeed, shorter than the question. All right. At this point, I'll go back to Patrice. My last question to you is, where do opportunities lie for partnering with the Zambian Ministry of Agriculture to benefit farmers, consumers, and economic growth?
Okay. There's lots of opportunities. I was just thinking about it while we're looking at some of the amazing presentations. You know, when you're thinking about ways in which, you know, we can partner around irrigation, you know, we can always partner around pesticide management. But I think, you know, also partnering around the, you know, we talked about technology and innovation. It's really our farmers that are really, you know, the best way of being able to accomplish, you know, a lot of those things. And you talked about trust. I couldn't have said it even more, because trust is a huge issue, especially in underrepresented communities. There's always a way of, what are you going to do with this information once you obtain it? And what are you going to leave behind once you leave? So that there is a way of generational wealth that continues to keep moving around. And, you know, those things continue to strengthen collaboration. I think the other point of different opportunities for partnership is livestock practices. You know, there's lots of farms in Minnesota, but you know, this state is pretty unique in terms of topography of where you have specialty crops, and then you also have our livestock farmers as well. But it starts with that visit, and you know, I would definitely look forward to driving down Patrice Lumumba Way, so I can be able to see that. But no, more importantly, I'm just looking for, as many opportunities as possible of what we can bring and what we can learn while we're there.
Thank you so much. My last one to you, Dr. Kapalu, will be what, in terms of what you have learned, I'm sure you have learned something from morning discussion presentations till now, and also what is still yet to come. What will be your message to the people that are listening to you from Zambia and the Zambian diaspora here? What will be your message?
Thank you very much for that great question. So I'm like one of those spies that Moses sent, to go and see what is happening in the promised land. And yeah, I think there are several areas of, mutual interest between Zambia and Minnesota in this particular context. There are areas where we can, as a country, of course, leverage on already existing expertise. I'll give a practical example. Dr. Shepande is a product of the university. So it's one very good example of what capacity building can do. And I think my message, going back home is simple. We can consider, building capacity in our own people, because 6-7 years down the line, he's now back, in a different capacity, advising government, on areas of how we can best improve our agriculture production. That is number one. The second message I would probably relay to Zambians in the diaspora is, there are a lot of opportunities, I think, back home. I think we've said it all in our presentations. There's land that is readily available through the Farm Block Initiative, which can be exploited in terms of them getting back and investing in food production. The population is growing, and like we rightly, highlighted in our videos, Zambia is not only looking at the Zambian market. We have 8 other African countries, that are our neighbors who are feeding off us. Some of the soybean we are producing, the soybean meal, is feeding into Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. Our maize, is feeding into the Democratic Republic of Congo, into Tanzania and Kenya. So there's quite a lot of opportunities, within the beef and livestock sector. The sector is growing. So there are all those opportunities that can be leveraged and harnessed. And then reflecting back on my take-home message, as I go back, there are a lot of areas where I think, the U.S., government has collaborated well with Zambia, and we can build on those collaborations. Like I highlighted, they've previously supported us, through the Feed the Future initiative, to develop crop varieties for our smallholder farmers. Right now, I think we have a small grant, with under USAID, where they're helping us to disseminate a mobile application app that is able to, diagnose diseases in cassava. So they are somehow, helping, with our extension services. So those are some of the low-hanging fruits that we can exploit to build even more partnerships through areas of mutual interest, areas where we can cross-pollinate ideas and leverage on existing capacities, and where there are capacity gaps, we can build capacities in both ways. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. To you, Patrice, what would be your message to the people that are watching you, including the Zambians in the diaspora, those live in Minnesota and nearby? What would be your message?
What would be the message? That's a great question, because I'm thinking of that particular question through a kid that didn't grow up on the farm. Someone that grew up in New York City and see lots of concrete, and you see lots of hope and allowing people to dream. And I'm always thinking about what is agriculture going to look like in 10, 15 years from now. So my message would be that we're looking forward to more collaboration, looking forward to the visit. But I think also when it comes to the innovations like you talked about in cassava, I think that those are just phenomenal things that we can be able to share and partner with the Zambian people, especially the youth. The youth is really where a lot of the next George Washington Carvers and Patrice Lumumba's are going to come from. Are going to come from the youth, and so we want to be able to cultivate the youth to be able to take over the farm and be able to be productive, to go from a consumer to a producer, and then for along the way continue to have generational wealth for the country, for themselves. So
Absolutely.
I think those are the ways to do it.
Thank you so much. Lastly to you, Your Excellency.
Listening to, you're still asking?
Yes.
Okay.
My last not a question to you. What would be your message to your people, your children that are here in diaspora? What would be your message to them in concerning what you have learned from yesterday, today, and what is yet to come? What will be your message in terms of encouragement? And also your office, I know you have been working tirelessly as an embassy to ensure that every diaspora is involved in the economic agenda of the country. What would be your message?
First of all, I wanted to answer the question you haven't asked me.
Okay.
This is really what is my takeaway from my engagement so far. Having listened to various presentations and meetings yesterday we had, and also having listened to the Zambia delegation from Ministry of Agriculture, I realize actually we are not far behind in terms of effort, in terms of what we want to do, in terms of what's going on, whether it's in research, in terms of realigning the Ministry of Agriculture to deliver. It's like we're actually there. The question is, we are not giving it priority financially. We are not committing resources, whether from government resources or the private sector supporting these initiatives. That is where the difference is. And I go back to see how we can influence resource allocation to prioritize research, and not only just research, how people use the findings to improve their agriculture, their farming. And the margins, really that difference is what we're going to learn from here. That margins makes the whole difference. That little difference because this is an advanced market. It's a really big market. It's a sophisticated market. The networks and research among the farming communities. This is a market where, I don't know whether it is true or not, this is a market where somebody can send a combined harvest on the field that is in his room drinking coffee, and it does everything on its own. But we don't want that technology anyway, because we want people to go on the farms to employ. But despite it being highly advanced, there are those margins we can learn, and I think that will be our next step. To answer your question, and in short to the diaspora, please, diaspora, do not disconnect from your country. I'm pleased so far that you are attending a meeting like this. Yesterday, you've been asking a lot of questions about how you want to invest, where you want to invest. Do not disconnect. We depend on you. And I've already said, the biggest benefit we have from you is not the financial means that you have, because in Zambia, actually, we also have money. But the exposure, that exposure, to me, is the biggest asset you can take back home. those handshakes, those networks, those people you meet every day from this side of the world, what they share with you, please bring it back home. It will make the whole lot of a difference, especially for the SMEs, because that is where our focus is as a country. SMEs, we've got 3.5 million small-scale farmers in Zambia. These produce the bulk of the maize and corn and other products. So I think that is what my response is. Do not disconnect.
Thank you so much. That's very powerful. We have come to the end of this panel discussion, but before we close, I'll give 5 minutes questions in case there's any question from the audience and probably online. We're open for questions. If you have any question for the panelists, please.
Question to the doctor and the Minister of Agriculture. I was told that there's a diaspora desk at Minister of Agriculture. Is it only Minister of Agriculture or the diaspora desk is across? Is there any other place where there's a... And then let me continue with another one. In the industry that I'm working in, I've seen a lot of not pharmaceutical. Pharmaceuticals are also aggressive, but the industry of makeup and stuff. I talk about Sephora, the makeup, maybe you know, MAC powder for the ladies and stuff. I've seen a lot of, nearly all the crops are being used in making products for makeup, bleaches and all that stuff. So my worry is in terms of selling the crops, it's good for the farmer because now the farmer has a choice where he can sell. I'll give you an example of some crop that you might know. It's a wild fruit, which is amarula. You all know what amarula maybe is, which is a liquor, like Irish Baileys or something. The same amarula, they're making products for makeup and stuff. So my question is mostly to a farmer who have an option. Is the government going to subsidize where somebody should do more of this crop as opposed to, because for corn that we're talking about, if I'm gonna have to sell corn, I need the biggest price. And if somebody who's doing pharmaceuticals or something gives me a good price, then the people that are gonna be eating the corn for Nshima, which is a staple food, they'll lose out then, because I'll be looking for making profits on a bigger note. And that comes across to the vegetables and everything that I've seen in bleaching, makeup, all those kind of things. So I don't know how is the government ready for that in case, I'm talking about even the funding. Can you use the funding to try and sustain the buying power to the farmers that are growing corn for maybe the market in that food security that you're talking about? I think there's FRA in Zambia. So if a farmer wants to sell to FRA and the price is not good, I have an option to sell to the Congolese my lemons because they're making bleach and they'll pay me more money than somebody who's gonna buy it from me and make lemonade. So how are you gonna bridge the gap?
Okay. So to answer your first question, I think for the diaspora, the first port of call is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs through, the missions that we have, in the different countries that we have, bilateral relations with. So there's a diaspora desk, I believe, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I think, if my memory serves me right, I think there was a diaspora policy that was launched, I think, a couple of years ago. But the one we have in the Ministry of Agriculture, the desk officer, is specific to agriculture. And like we submitted in our presentation earlier this morning, So if you go through your mission, you can also directly reach out to Zambia Development Agency, depending on what type of information you are looking for. So to answer your question, yes, I think there are various platforms through which you can be able to engage with your government, either through the mission, through the Ministry of Agriculture, specifically for agriculture related purposes. Coming to your next question regarding safeguarding food security, we have, like you've rightly pointed out, the Food Reserve Agency, whose mandate, is strategic food reserves. And like the ambassador, earlier pointed out, the current government, your government has incentivized, maize production by offering, a very good price, to farmers with a view of, safeguarding our food security. Insofar as, allowing maize to be used for, or any crop commodities, to be used for other industrial purposes, I think in my view, as with anything and as with, even in every jurisdiction, there's that, need for us to balance between what we are using for food production versus, what will go for industrial purposes. But insofar as Zambia is concerned, I think we have policy instruments that are existing that help, to ensure that, our staples, are readily available, to our population. So government pumps in quite a lot of money within the Food Reserve Agency to ensure that there's adequate maize that is purchased for our own food and feed consumption. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll ask Davis, is there any question on? Thank you so much. This question is from online, Patrick Chomba. What has embassy done to make Zambians in the US participate in the government farm visit, I think, farm blocks? The question disappeared.
Hello. We haven't done anything as embassy. However, we have heard already that there's a diaspora desk at the Ministry of Agriculture, which to us is very good news. And the best we can do as embassy is to link the diaspora to the diaspora desk. And we want to hear from you, diaspora, whether it is working. That diaspora desk at Agriculture. Give us feedback.
It is really working. It's effective. So
if it is working, that is, I think, not from the embassy point of view, but from the Ministry of Agriculture. The only thing we shall do, like we have done in the past 9 months now, is to get the gentleman, whether it's a man or woman, who is at the diaspora desk, to be on our platform to talk to you on a virtual platform, so that the diaspora can ask questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I think at this point in time, we'll end this discussion. I can really see the food is ready and we'll break out for lunch for now and come back later, Your Excellency.